next option here are these are some general options. When you're on vMix, you can set some defaults for how new inputs behave. So it's a great way to speed up your ingest when you're trying to load up assets here. So you can get it to start upon the program opening with external already turned on and full screen already turned on. That's really nice to do. So that way if you do a restart, you just get back as quickly as possible, especially because it's very easy to forget to turn external back on. And that's a lot of times when we are like, wow, that signal's not working anymore. And a lot of times it's just because we just haven't hit external yet. So this way you could get it so when you restart the program, external will already be on. Over here, you can also do some confirmation for things that are rolling. So if you're rolling a record or externals on streaming, you can turn them on and off if you want to see indication that they're happening. I like doing that just so I can quickly see what's going on with the machine. And then when I close an input here, it will just immediately disappear, but this will let you give you a box here to give you a warning to not accidentally close it. Not a super big deal because this back arrow here will undo a closed input, but you might want that if you're accidentally closing inputs because it is a very, if you look down here on the left, it is very close. The close button is very close to the overlay input 1, so definitely a couple times while going quickly trying to put something in overlay 1, it's very easy to accidentally hit the close input button, which is kind of the opposite of what you want to do. So that'll let you get around that. I'm going to turn that off just because today we're probably going to be adding things and getting rid of the things pretty quickly. Over here, you could also set the autoplay, auto restart, and auto pause. These will be triggered by the transition from preview to program, but you could select if you want autoplay turned on, if you want restart turned on and off, or pause turned on and off. So I like leaving restart on because most of the time, if we want to play another asset again, we're going to want to see it from the beginning. But if you want an asset to continue playing after the transition out of program, let's say, you will want that turned off so it doesn't start itself over. It just continues playing until the end. So you could change these defaults here, but again, of course, you can go and make individual assets a little bit different. When we're using vMix for playback, we actually turn off autoplay here. So then that way we can queue up the first frame of something in program, see it in a switcher, and then we just say play it when we go to it on program off of if we're like using it as playback into another switcher. Over here also, this is controlling what transitions you're seeing over here. So you can get rid of things you don't want here, hide things you don't want. You can also get production clocks turned on here, which are pretty cool. That give you a little bit of intel about your record time, stream time, stuff like that. You could also, there's this quick play button that just automatically preview program, does a certain transition, and it'll also quick play if I, let's say, want to bring an input. Actually, I'll look at the quick play in a second, but it's a really great way if you want to fade something without having to hit 2 buttons to bring it in preview, then program. You can just hit quick play and it'll go right to program with a transition instead of it just being a cut. So you could set that here. And then this will let you, if you wanted to just have a click button for the preview window to quick play it. That sounds terrifying to me, so I don't turn that on, but you could do that if you want. This will let you do some triggers off the T-bar. I haven't really used that for anything, but that's probably, I can imagine that's a great way to have some triggers go off that you could set on an input based on the T-bar moving. A lot of times we'll just leave vMix control surface enabled and plug and play enabled, so that way if we have a vMix control surface or a production bot control surface, we could just plug it right in and not worry about it, because another big thing about vMix to know is that if you plug in a USB source after vMix is already open, it's not going to see it. So if you do want to see that USB device, you will have to restart the software. Not the whole computer, just the software, but something to be aware of. It's good to plug in all your USB devices before starting setting up a show, so that way you don't have to stop down and restart in order to connect something. And that goes also for any USB audio devices or anything like that. You're going to want to make sure vMix can see it before you start trying to use it, because it's not going to work. So that's pretty much the settings here. Performance, there's not too much that we really do here. I do like, as if your default graphics adapter doesn't look correct, you can define it here. High input performance mode is a really great setting for when you want to add a lot of inputs here. Low latency capture kind of does the opposite of that, where it is a little bit more taxing on the CPU. So you're just going to want to ideally have a very minimal production if you're going to want to turn low latency on. And then, yeah, if you have the right graphics card like we do now, high input performance mode is great to kind of, I think it just slows down the actual input boxes here. and kind of prioritizes preview and program for it, as well as just be less taxing for your CPU and GPU. I love keeping disable Windows Update when vMix is running on, so that way you don't get burned by a Windows update. And then here I'll put GPU and CPU alerts here, so if that way there's any problems, you'll get warned about it. And then I leave this on auto, but you can, if you're noticing that, you know, cameras are lagging or things aren't looking the right way, you can play around with this to get a better display method on it, depending on what kind of sources you're using. So yeah, so pretty much I like pretty much just always turning high input performance mode on.